Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating parts of US coin history, the quarters made between the 1960s and 1980s. Now, they might look like ordinary change, the kind you toss in a jar or find in your car's cup holder. But here's where it gets exciting. Some of these seemingly everyday coins could actually be worth a lot more than 25 cents. In fact, a few rare ones have sold for thousands of dollars. So, let's break down what makes certain quarters special, how to spot hidden minting errors, and why collectors are willing to pay big bucks for them. Grab your coin jar, because you might just have a tiny fortune sitting right at home. Let's kick things off with one of the most talked about coins in US history, the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. This coin was released to mark a huge milestone, the 200th anniversary of America's independence. Right away, you can tell it's different from regular quarters. Instead of a single date, it proudly shows 1776 to 1976, symbolizing 2 centuries of freedom and history. Flip it over, and you'll see one of the most iconic coin designs ever made, a Revolutionary War-era drummer, designed by artist Jack L. Ahr. It's a patriotic image that instantly stands out from the usual Washington eagle reverse. Now, here's something a lot of people don't realize. If your bicentennial quarter has no mint mark under the date, that's not an error. It just means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which didn't use mint marks on quarters back then. So if you don't see a letter, that's totally normal. But before you get too excited, here's the catch. The US Mint made hundreds of millions of these coins. In fact, over 800 million bicentennial quarters were produced. That's a massive number. Because of that, most of them are extremely common and still pop up in circulation today. If yours has been used and shows somewhere, it's probably only worth its face value, 25 cents. Even if it's in pretty nice condition with a bit of shine left, you might only get $1 or $2 for it from a collector. Now, if you have a bicentennial quarter that's in perfect, uncirculated condition, meaning it's never been used, still has its original luster, and looks like it just came off the press, then it could be worth anywhere from $5 to $20. That's not bad for something you might find in a change jar. But what about those stories online claiming these coins are worth $5,000 or more? Let's clear that up. Those sky-high prices almost always come from coins with rare minting mistakes, the kind of one-in-a-million errors that collectors go crazy for. Some of these special errors include coins struck on the wrong type of metal, coins that were double-struck, meaning the design was pressed twice, or coins that are off-center or missing certain details. When an error like that combines with a coin in perfect mint state condition, that's when you start seeing those big 4-figure auction results. For example, one bicentennial quarter with a dramatic striking error sold for more than $3,000. Another, a double-struck example graded in top condition, fetched over $4,000 at auction. But let's be honest, those are the exceptions. Most bicentennial quarters you find are completely normal and worth around a quarter. You might see people listing them online for outrageous prices. $2,000, $5,000, even $10,000, but that doesn't mean anyone's actually buying them. Those listings often just sit unsold because the sellers are hoping to get lucky. If you really want to know what your coin is worth, don't go buy random online listings. Instead, check completed auction results. That shows what collectors have actually paid. That's the real market value. And if you think you might have something special, maybe your coin looks odd, has doubling on the letters, or feels different, don't assume anything right away. The best move is to have it examined by a professional grading company. 2 of the most trusted services in the hobby are PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. These experts can authenticate your coin, confirm any mint errors, and assign it an official grade. Once your coin is certified, it becomes much easier to sell, and collectors will take it far more seriously. That's when you might discover its true value. So, what's the takeaway? Most 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarters are fun pieces of history and a great reminder of America's 200th birthday. But they're not particularly rare. However, if yours has a minting error or is in flawless, untouched condition, you could be holding something worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. If you're just starting out with coin collecting, these quarters are a perfect way to begin. They're easy to find, affordable, and rich with history. Plus, every once in a while, someone really does stumble upon one that's worth a small fortune. So next time you're sorting through your spare change, don't ignore those old bicentennial quarters. Take a closer look. One of them might just be a little piece of American history hiding in plain sight. That's the magic of coin collecting. You never really know what you'll find. Every coin tells its own story, and sometimes, that story turns out to be worth way more than you ever imagined. Next up, Let's talk about a coin that often sparks curiosity. The 1967 Washington quarter without a mint mark. This one gets a lot of attention because people often think that missing letter under the date means it's rare or valuable. But here's the truth. It's not missing anything at all. See, during the mid-1960s, the US Mint made a big decision. They temporarily stopped putting mint marks on coins altogether. There was a nationwide coin shortage at the time, and the government wanted to stop people from hoarding coins based on where they were made. So, for a few years, every single quarter that came out, no matter if it was from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, looked exactly the same. No mint mark, period. That means if your 1967 quarter doesn't have a letter under the date, it's completely normal. In fact, every 1967 quarter was struck without a mint mark. So, while it might look different from most modern coins, that little blank space doesn't make it rare, it just makes it part of history. Now let's talk about just how many of these were made. In 1967 alone, the Mint produced over 1.5 billion quarters. Yep, billion with a B. With numbers like that, it's no surprise they're still everywhere. In coin jars, old collections, and sometimes even in your loose change. Because there were so many made, most 1967 quarters today are only worth their face value, 25 cents. Even if yours looks a little shinier than average or seems to have been stored carefully, it's probably not worth more than $1 unless it's in truly exceptional shape. Now, here's where things start to get a little more interesting. If you happen to have a 1967 quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition, meaning it's never been used and still has that original mint luster, it could be worth a bit more. When a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC evaluates a coin and gives it a top grade, the value can rise quickly. For example, a 1967 quarter graded MS66 or MS67, that's mint state, meaning it's nearly flawless, might sell for $20, $50, or even a few $100s depending on the demand. And if your coin somehow achieves an extremely rare MS68 grade, that's when the value can jump into the thousands. You may have seen news stories or social media posts saying a 1967 quarter sold for $5,000 or more. And yes, that's true in a few isolated cases. But those coins weren't just regular quarters. They had something special going for them, either an incredibly high grade or a rare minting error. Mint errors happen when something goes wrong during the coin production process, and they can make a coin truly one of a kind. Some examples include off-center strikes, where the design isn't perfectly aligned. Double strikes, where the coin was struck twice by the press. Wrong planchet errors, where the coin was accidentally made on a piece of metal meant for another denomination. These types of mistakes are rare, and that's exactly why collectors love them. When a coin like that also happens to be in perfect mint condition, it becomes incredibly valuable. In fact, one verified 1967 quarter graded MS68 by PCGS, nearly flawless and struck with sharp, detailed features, once sold for over $5,000 at auction. But remember, that's the exception, not the rule. The vast majority of 1967 quarters have been in circulation for decades, handled, scratched, and worn down from everyday use. Those ones are worth exactly what they say, 25 cents. Sometimes you'll see people online listing ordinary 1,967 quarters for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But most of those are just wishful listings, not real sales. If you check the actual auction results, you'll notice that only the highest graded or error examples bring serious money. That's why collectors always rely on real auction data and professional grading, not random online prices. So if you think your 1967 quarter looks a little different, or you notice something odd about it, don't jump to conclusions. The best thing you can do is have it examined by a trusted grading company. Once a coin is officially graded and certified, you'll know exactly what you have, and if it turns out to be something rare, that's when you might hit the jackpot. But without that certification, your coin is most likely just a regular quarter, an interesting collectible, sure, but not a hidden treasure. So, to sum it all up, almost every 1967 Washington quarter you find has no mint mark, and that's normal. Most are worth face value, 25 cents. A few in perfect mint condition might be worth tens or even hundreds of dollars, and a small handful, those near perfect, certified examples with rare mint errors, can sell for thousands. That's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. You never really know what kind of history, or hidden value, you might have sitting right there in your pocket. Now let's move on to another interesting coin, the 1973 no mint mark Washington quarter. At first glance, this coin might not look any different from the change in your wallet. But it does have an interesting story behind it. The reason it has no mint mark is simple. It was made at the Philadelphia Mint. During 1973, Philadelphia did not include a mint mark on its coins, so if you see no letter under the date, that's completely normal. And here's the thing, the US Mint produced millions and millions of these quarters that year. Because so many were made, the 1973 quarter is actually one of the most common coins from that era. You can still find them in pocket change, coin jars, or tucked away in old collections. For that reason, most 1973 quarters don't carry much extra value. In average condition, the kind that's been used for years, it's worth exactly what it says, 25 cents. Even one that looks fairly nice, with a bit of shine left, usually only sells for a little over face value, maybe 30 or 40 cents, or up to $1 at most. Now, where things start to get a bit more exciting is with coins that are in uncirculated condition. That means the coin was never used in everyday transactions, no scratches, nowhere, just that bright original luster like it came straight from the mint. An uncirculated 1973 quarter might bring anywhere from $1 to $5, and in some cases, if it's in near perfect shape, it could go for $10 or a bit more. But those are still modest values. So where do those rumors come from? The ones that say a 1973 quarter could be worth $1,500 or more. Well, those big dollar examples only happen when the coin has something truly special about it, usually a rare minting error. These errors happen during the production process, and when they do, they create coins that are one of a kind. One of the most sought-after errors collectors look for is called a double die. That happens when the coin's design was stamped twice, but slightly out of alignment. If you look closely at the date, lettering, or design and see what looks like a shadow or doubling effect, that could be a double die error. Another kind of error might be a weak or missing design. Maybe part of the image didn't strike fully, or the coin was made on the wrong type of metal planchet. These unusual mistakes are the ones that can push a coin's value into the hundreds, or even thousands. But to reach those kinds of numbers, a coin also needs to be in outstanding condition, nearly perfect, what collectors call mint state 68 or higher. Professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, are the only reliable way to confirm this. They'll examine the coin under magnification, check for real errors, and give it an official grade from 1 to 70, with 70 being a flawless, perfect coin. A 1973 quarter with a genuine error and a high mint state grade could absolutely sell for hundreds or even a few $1,000s at a real auction. But keep in mind, those are very rare exceptions. Most of the time, people who claim their 1973 quarter is worth $1,500 are simply guessing or hoping. They might post it online at a high price, but those listings usually sit unsold because there's no real proof behind the claim. So if someone tells you their 1973 quarter is extremely valuable, ask a couple of questions. Has it been graded by PCGS or NGC? Does it have a documented error? If the answer is no, then it's almost certainly just a regular quarter worth face value, or maybe a few dollars if it's in mint condition. Still, these coins are wonderful for collecting, especially if you're putting together a year-by-year set of Washington quarters. They represent a great piece of American coinage history, even if they don't bring big money. But remember, sometimes the fun of coin collecting isn't just about the profit, it's about the excitement of finding something unique. And who knows, maybe one day you'll stumble upon that rare 1973 quarter with a true mint error hiding in plain sight. So always look carefully, and if you think your coin could be something special, send it to a grading service for professional confirmation. That's the only sure way to find out what it's really worth. Now let's take a closer look at the 1969 no mint mark Washington quarter. Another coin that often catches people's attention, especially when they notice there's no little letter under the date. Just like some of the other coins we've talked about, the reason it doesn't have a mint mark is simple. It was made at the Philadelphia Mint. Back in 1969, Philadelphia didn't place mint marks on its coins, so seeing a blank space under the date is completely normal. It doesn't mean the coin is rare or special by itself. That year, the US Mint struck hundreds of millions of these quarters, a huge number. Because of that, the 1969 no mint mark quarter is still very common today. You can easily find them in circulation, in change jars, or tucked away in an old coin collection. If your 1969 quarter has been used in everyday life, with scratches, dull color, or signs of wear, it's probably worth only its face value, 25 cents. Even a coin that looks relatively clean, without any major damage, usually sells for just a small premium, maybe 50 cents to $1 at most. But if you happen to have one that looks brand new, no scratches, full shine, and that fresh, mint look, things get a little more interesting. Coins like that are called uncirculated or mint state quarters. These are coins that were never spent or handled, so they remain in their original condition. An uncirculated 1969 quarter can sell for a few dollars, sometimes even $10 to $20, depending on how perfect it is. Now, you might have heard stories online about 1969 quarters being worth $2,000 or more. And while that sounds exciting, that kind of price only happens in very rare situations, usually when a coin has a genuine mint error or a unique variety that sets it apart from the rest. One of the most valuable types of mint errors is the doubled die. This happens when the coin's design is impressed twice, but slightly off from the first strike. The result is a doubling effect on parts of the design, like the date, the lettering, or the word Liberty. If you look closely and see a shadow-like doubling, that could be an error worth checking. Other errors can include coins struck on the wrong type of metal, or coins with parts of the design missing or weakly struck. These unusual mistakes are what collectors get excited about, and they're very rare. For a 1969 quarter to reach those higher values, hundreds or even thousands of dollars, it not only needs to have one of these errors, but it also must be in outstanding condition. That's where the professional grading companies come in. Services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, carefully inspect coins and assign a grade on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 meaning an absolutely perfect coin. If your 1969 quarter is verified by one of these grading companies as a high-grade error coin, then yes, it could be worth hundreds or even a couple $1,000s at auction. But here's the reality. Most 1969 quarters don't have any errors, and they're not in mint state condition. Many of them have been circulating for decades, and those are worth just pocket change. Online, you might see people listing regular 1969 quarters for crazy prices like $1,000 or more, but those listings almost never sell. Without grading or proof of an actual mint error, those coins are simply wishful thinking. So, if someone tells you their 1969 quarter without a mint mark is worth a fortune, ask them a simple question: has it been graded or certified by PCGS or NGC? If the answer is no, then it's almost certainly just a regular quarter. Even if it's shiny or looks better than average, that alone doesn't make it valuable. Still, these coins are great for collecting, especially if you enjoy putting together a full set of Washington quarters from different years. They're affordable, full of history, and sometimes, if you get lucky, one might turn out to be a hidden gem. If you think your 1969 quarter might be special, maybe you've spotted something odd or unique, the smartest move is to have it professionally graded. That way, you'll know for sure what you have and what it's truly worth. So, while most 1969 no mint mark quarters are only worth face value, a rare few with genuine mint errors and near-perfect condition have sold for hundreds or even thousands. Just remember, always verify with a trusted grading company before believing those big online price claims. Now let's move on to the 1977 no mint mark Washington quarter, a coin that often sparks curiosity among collectors and everyday finders alike. If you've noticed your 1977 quarter doesn't have a mint mark under the date, don't worry, that's completely normal. These were made at the Philadelphia Mint, and during that time, the Philadelphia Mint didn't place a mint mark on its coins. So, the lack of a letter beneath the date doesn't make it rare, it's simply how these coins were produced. In 1977, the U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of these quarters. With such a massive mintage, the majority of these coins are still very easy to find today, in old collections, coin jars, or even still circulating in pocket change. Because so many were made, the 1977 no mint mark quarter is considered common, and most examples don't carry much extra value. If your coin has seen regular use, showing scratches, dirt, or worn details, it's likely worth just 25 cents, its face value. Even if it looks fairly clean, an average 1977 quarter without any special feature usually sells for just a small premium, maybe 50 cents to $1 at most. However, if you happen to have one that looks brand new, shiny, sharp, and untouched, you might have something slightly more valuable. Coins in this condition are known as uncirculated or mint-state coins. These are quarters that were never spent or handled, so they retain their original mint luster. An uncirculated 1977 no mint mark quarter can bring a few dollars, sometimes even around $10, depending on how perfect it looks and how high it grades. Now, you might have heard claims online that some 1977 quarters are worth as much as $9,000. And while that number definitely catches attention, it's only true under very rare and specific circumstances. For a 1977 no-mint mark quarter to reach that kind of value, it must have a major mint error or an extremely unusual variety that makes it stand out from the millions of normal ones. One of the most sought-after mint errors is called a double die. This happens when part of the design, such as the date, lettering, or motto, was accidentally struck twice. When that happens, the details can appear slightly doubled or blurry. These mistakes are rare and collectible because they were caused during the original minting process. Another type of error could be a coin struck on the wrong metal planchet. For example, a quarter accidentally struck on a nickel or foreign coin blank. Other rare errors include missing designs, weak strikes, or off-center impressions. Coins like these are what collectors get truly excited about, and depending on the type of error and how clear it is, they can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But to actually reach those higher price ranges, the coin must also be in excellent, almost perfect condition. That's where professional grading companies come in. Organizations like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, specialize in inspecting coins and giving them an official grade on a 1 to 70 scale, with 70 representing a flawless, perfect coin. If your 1977 quarter has been graded by one of these companies and identified as a high-grade coin with a rare mint error, that's when it can command serious money, possibly thousands of dollars. However, without certification or proof from a recognized grading service, it's hard to believe high-value claims. There are many listings online where people try to sell ordinary 1977 quarters for ridiculous prices, hoping someone will bite. But the reality is, most of these coins never sell for those inflated amounts. So if someone claims their 1977 no-mint mark quarter is worth thousands, the first question to ask is, has it been graded and verified by PCGS or NGC? If the answer is no, then it's almost certainly just a regular coin. Even if it looks bright and clean, without an official grade or proven mint error, it's unlikely to be worth more than a few dollars. Still, these coins are fun to collect, especially if you're building a full Washington quarter set by year. They represent a piece of everyday American history and are a great addition to any collection, even if their value isn't sky-high. And if you do think your 1977 quarter might have something unusual, maybe a double design, off-center strike, or other odd feature, it's definitely worth sending to a grading company for confirmation. Professional graders will carefully examine your coin and let you know if it's a true error and what its actual grade and market value are. So, while most 1977 no-mint mark quarters are common and worth just face value, the rare few with authentic mint errors and top-grade condition can indeed be worth hundreds or even thousands. Always verify, never assume, and if you suspect you've got something special, get it checked by the experts before believing any wild online price tags. And finally, let's talk about the 1984 D Washington quarter, one of those coins that looks ordinary at first glance, but can surprise collectors under the right conditions. This coin was produced at the Denver Mint, which is why you'll see a small letter, D, just below the date on the front. Back in 1984, the U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of these quarters, and a large number came straight from the Denver Mint. Because so many were made, the 1984 D quarter is very common today. You can still find them in circulation, in old coin jars, or tucked away in drawers and collections across the country. If your 1984 D quarter shows normal signs of use, somewhere on Washington's face, light scratches, maybe dull luster, it's usually worth just its face value of 25 cents. Coins that have circulated heavily rarely bring in extra value, even if they still look decent. Even if it's a bit shinier or cleaner than usual, a regular 1984 D quarter without any errors or unique traits might only sell for 50 cents to $1, depending on condition. Now, if you happen to have one that looks like it just came from the mint, with full detail, strong luster, and no signs of wear, that's called an uncirculated or mint state coin. Uncirculated 1984 D quarters can sometimes sell for a few dollars, often in the range of $3 to $10, especially if they've been graded by professional coin services. A truly perfect coin might bring a little more, but even then, these are not considered rare. So where do those big price stories come from? You might have seen posts or videos claiming that a 1984 D Washington quarter can be worth $1,000 or more. And that's true, but only in very rare cases. To reach that kind of value, your coin needs to have a major mint error or an unusual variety that makes it different from all the regular ones. One of the most well-known valuable errors in coins like this is called a doubled die, when the coin's design was accidentally struck twice, creating a doubled or shadowed appearance on the date, lettering, or parts of Washington's image. Another possible error is when the coin was struck on the wrong metal planchet, or when parts of the design are missing or off-center. These types of errors are extremely rare, and that's why they can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, but only when verified and in top condition. To confirm something like that, collectors send their coins to professional grading companies such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. These companies carefully inspect coins and give them a grade between 1 and 70, where 70 represents a perfect, flawless coin. A 1984 decoder graded MS-67 or MS-68, and showing a confirmed error can absolutely reach high prices at auction, sometimes hundreds or even over $1,000. But remember, without official grading or certification, those claims don't hold much weight. Many people list ordinary 1984 decorders online for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, but most of those listings never actually sell. So before getting too excited, always ask the key questions. Is the coin certified by PCGS or NGC? Does it have a recognized mint error? If the answer is no, then it's probably just a regular 1984 decoder worth about a quarter, or maybe a few bucks if it's in great shape. Still, these coins are great for collecting, especially if you're building a full set of Washington quarters from the 1980s. They represent an interesting time in US coin history when millions of coins were being struck each year, but a few rare errors managed to slip through. If you think your 1984 decoder might be special, maybe it looks a bit off, has a doubled feature, or seems unusually sharp and shiny, the best step is to get it checked by a professional grading service. Experts will verify if there's a genuine mint error and give you an accurate grade, which determines the coin's real market value. So, while most 1984 decorders are common and worth only 25 cents, a small number with rare mint errors or extremely high grades can sell for hundreds, or even thousands at auction. It all depends on the coin's condition, rarity, and certification. And that brings us to the end of this coin journey. From the bicentennial quarter to the 1984 D, most of these coins are part of everyday American change. But hidden among them are those rare treasures that make coin collecting so exciting. Always remember, before believing any big price claims online, make sure your coin is professionally graded and certified. That's the only real way to know what it's truly worth. Collecting coins isn't just about finding money, it's about discovering history, learning stories, and enjoying the thrill of spotting something rare. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss another video about rare coins and hidden treasures. Stay curious, keep collecting, and maybe the next quarter you find will be the one that changes everything.